Welcome to our Unit 10 Monday discussion. For this unit, there are no online assignments. This week should be spent in the field, finishing up your second and third interviews if you're doing the three-part series for the interviews, or doing your second interview and your observation. I would suggest also using this time to work on transcribing your second and third interview, or your second interview if you're just doing two interviews in the observation. Let's see, after Unit 10, we're going to move into qualitative data analysis in Unit 11, and we'll move on to case study for our research approach presentations. So I guess what I want to touch on just a little bit is some feedback about the midterms. Overall, everybody did very well. I was very pleased with the progress that I've seen in your understanding about qualitative research. People are beginning to understand what a theoretical framework is, and that's great. Portions or parts that people needed some work on, obviously, were the methodology and making sure that you're showing me that you understand the qualitative terminology. So issues of subjectivity, trustworthiness, validity, how to use those terms and account for them in the qualitative research process. And also understanding how the theory of the methodology drives the methods itself. So if I gave you comments on your midterm, of course I do expect that you're going to address those for the final. If you don't, obviously you're going to lose points on your final exam. In addition, I asked for the midterm that you linked your writings back to the course readings. And I'm actually going to increase the number of references that I want you to link back to the course readings for the final. As a course instructor, just by reading your post and the threaded discussions and seeing your midterms, I can tell when students have done the course readings, when they're grasping qualitative research and when they're not. And so I think one way to kind of hold everybody accountable to the course readings is to have you cite more of them in the final paper that you're going to turn in. So I'm going to go through and think about that, and I'll revise the final rubric. The basic tenets, the basic requirements are the same. I just want to see you cite more of the course readings. So for example, for this week, Unit 9 under Research as Relationship, you were supposed to read two articles on research as relationship, and they're very, very important articles in qualitative research, and they ask some questions about social responsibility as researchers. And I think that a lot of this came up in the threaded discussions, and I actually posted a response about this in each of the threaded discussions, that some of the issues that I see people struggling with, I think if you read these two articles, some of those would become more clear, and I might see you're thinking a little bit deeper about the research relationship. A lot of people question if critical research was too subjective. How close do you actually get to your participants? Can you have an agenda in your research? These two articles would say all research, probably, regardless of the paradigm, has some agenda. And that as much as we want to think that we don't insert our own subjectivity into any research, that's not true. Another basic concept they brought up is that all research is political in nature, that we're choosing to represent others, and that as researchers, we're privileged, aren't we? I mean, we're all highly educated at this point. We have access to producing knowledge that can shape our social structures, and whether you maybe as PhD students you don't see yourself as having that quite yet, but you will, and you do. And how do we choose to represent those that we study upon? And that's the main thing, is we're studying upon something and somebody. That's not a neutral act in itself. But then we say, well, we have an informed consent. Well, if I'm a poor welfare mother, as in Fine's article, do I even really know what I'm signing when I discuss my life as a welfare mother? If I go into a social service office and I'm asked to talk about my life as a welfare mother, and I sign a consent form for $40, do I really understand what I'm signing that for and the implications behind that? What is, if I wasn't a researcher, and I was a young mother, like these women, a young poor mother, would I understand exactly the nature of the research process and how this is going to be used? And so those are some of the things that we always need to keep in mind, is that we are privileged, and we're privileged in the ways that we choose to represent this data. And that's just not for qualitative data, that exists also for quantitative data. That, we hold some power here, and as a researcher we hold more power than the participant, and that we're the ones who get to write this data and disseminate it and publish it and let it be out there in the field as some sort of truth, right? So I want to see that you have, to me, actually, these two articles might be the most important articles out of all the articles that we'll be reading, because it goes back to ethics and social responsibility. And so I really would encourage you to, or I want you, not just encourage, I want you to go back and make sure that you revisit those articles this week if you haven't already. And I will expect to see some citations of those in your final product, and at least demonstrating that you have read those and considered them, even if you don't have to agree with them, obviously, but I want you to consider the points that they're making in that. So let's see. So I talked a little bit about the final. I mentioned that this week we're working on field experience and field work. Next week we'll move into qualitative data analysis. For the activity, I would like you to post a paragraph conceptual memo. In the Emerson readings that we did a few weeks ago, they talked about what a conceptual memo is. So I'd like for you to go back to that reading and revisit that to understand what a conceptual memo is, so that you can post that in the activity. Again, all of the readings that I've posted were really thoughtful and intentional for this course. I spent a lot of time thinking about what reading you should have at what point in the course, and how that would shape your understanding of qualitative research. So if you're going to participate in that, I would suggest you go back and look at what a conceptual memo is, because it's a very important part of the qualitative research process as well. And I'll probably actually, for my Unit 11 Monday discussion, I will talk more specifically about the conceptual memo and the importance of that. So we talked about the midterm, about this week's readings, Unit 10. We're getting really close to the end of the semester, so I'd encourage you not to procrastinate and get in there and finish this up. And so we can move into data analysis, which is actually probably, I know I say this about everything, that each piece is really difficult, and it is, right? But hopefully you're building this knowledge base slowly and over time. And the data analysis is that part that actually students get a little bit worried about, because if you do quantitative, you have SPSS. So you can throw the numbers out in there and shoot them out, and there's these very definite steps to go through to produce your results. And again, we'll find, as we found in all of the things we've done so far, is that this process is messy, and that it's emergent, and that we're the instrument. And just with data, in data analysis, you're again going to be the research instrument, because you're the one who's going to be coding and finding things and interpreting the data to some extent, right? So again, if you have any questions, or if you'd like me to address something in the next Monday discussion, I'd be happy to do that. Just send me an email, or you're always welcome to stop by my office. All right, enjoy the week. Take care.